Today is May 27th, 2011, and we are in the California Veterans Home, Ventura, California. We're here to talk to Clifford Harold Gingrich. Clifford was born July 8th, 1929 in Los Angeles, California. He enlisted in the Army in October 1946 and served as a technician 5th grade in the Army until January 1948 in the 24th Division of the 11th Field Artillery Group in occupied Japan. Present today are Ed Lynch, videographer, Clifford's daughter, Stacy Gingrich, and myself, Nancy Kislak. I am a member of the Conejo Valley chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Tell me where you were born and when?
Los Angeles, California, 1929.
Can you tell me about your mom and dad?
Well, I'm not sure my age. At the time, Dad took off. And I think I understand why he left after a few years had passed. And then Mom always worked out of town.
What did she do?
She worked in the main camp in Sequoia National Park, where the restaurant and all the facilities are, the gas station. And she was kind of she wasn't a nurse, but she was a helper. And she also took care of the cabins and things a service person. And then after that, she just kind of retired till she passed away. She lived in Culver City in those days.
And what about your dad? What did he do?
He was a employee of the Los Angeles Transit System, streetcar conductor and motorman, and he retired from that.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
One sister, she passed.
Older or younger?
Older, 2 years older. And she was a heavy smoker and finally killed her.
I'm sorry. Tell me about why you chose to enlist and what service branch you enlisted in.
Okay, enlisted in the Army. And my lifelong friend who recently passed, we did everything together, and something prompted us to go down Los Angeles to the Pacific Electric Building and enlist, which we did.
How old were you?
I had just turned 17. And yeah, we were both 17. And we went down and signed the papers. And we left, I can't remember the day I left Los Angeles, but first they fed us lunch at the Harvey House in downtown Los Angeles, which, what I understand, found out later, was a popular restaurant that was at the in big cities. There was more than one.
Now, you were only 17. How was it that they accepted? Did someone sign for
Well, in those days, I was sworn in October 4th, 1946. And if you were one day's service between certain dates and you were honorably discharged, you were entitled to the VA benefits. And that included medical and things of that nature. Anyway, we chose the Army, and my buddy and I, we grew up together. And he went to Carolina, and I went to Kentucky, Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Fort Knox. Now, who signed for you, though, because you were only 17?
Yeah, well, that's a kind of a gray area in my memory. But Mom signed. Dad was gone. And he took off. He was still alive. But I signed the papers, and that certain dates in 1946 through 47, if you completed the service, that's how, there was nothing secret about it. It was a 16. They offered a 16-month enlistment, and we both qualified for that. And so when we finished training, like I say, he was trained in South Carolina, I believe it was, and I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and in basic training included some training in the tanks and mainly big trucks. And when that was complete, we took a Christmas vacation. They sent us home, and then in that particular month, we went to Camp Stoneman up near Oakland. Well, this picture was taken in Fort Knox, Kentucky, during the holidays. But that particular tank was kind of a fixture. Didn't run, didn't have a motor. So he trained in some heavy trucks. And we got in that tank, but we didn't get to play with it. I always remembered that. I would have loved to have driven it around. These two fellows are both from Long Beach. Never saw them again after training.
Which one's you?
Well, I'm there. Is that okay, the way it's wiggling? And these two fellas, we went all through training together. We all ended up in the Yokohama area, the 4th Replacement Depot in Japan. And we all went our separate ways. What we were assigned to. I was assigned to the 24th Division Artillery.
Tell me about this picture, the brown one in the middle.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a picture in town. We were stationed near a rather large town on Kyushu Island. And that was just that sign was some political sign, had nothing to do with the GIs. We were just looking for a good background for some pictures. And that seemed to be okay. And my daughter has a friend, Japanese friend, who interpreted that sign as a political thing for the Japanese only. But I had just turned 18 there, I think. It's in 1947.
Can you tell me about some of the other pictures that you have?
Okay. This is a piece of artillery that I was assigned to, and that was taken out in the area of Nagasaki, believe it or not. But you couldn't go in Nagasaki.
Why not?
It was after the bomb. It was radioactive. But we could go training up there in the mountains. And, we were shooting at some imaginary target. Have no idea what it was.
But it was a target.
Yeah, just out in no hostilities. There was no war going on at the time. And
so you were stationed in occupied Japan for
yes,
about how long?
For 1 year, almost to the day.
What was the name of the camp?
Camp Hakata. And it was the capital of Kyushu, I believe.
I have a map there that maybe you could show me on the map.
Okay. This is Kyushu Island, the area of
you want me? I'll hold it like this and you can do it. Can you see
Yeah.
it?
The purple area was the Hakata, what's the word? Like the word escapes me right now. But around here, this is the Bay of Hakata. And around this side, this way, was Korea. That's the Sea of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And Korea would be way up here.
Mm-hmm. Now, where was the camp?
The camp was Camp Hakata, and it was on a small peninsula. What can I put? What can I put? Excuse me. Which can I point with?
Here.
That?
Would you like this? Here.
Okay, it would be. There you go. It would be on this peninsula here. And you go around all the way to this side of this Bay of Hakata. They kind of run together. And that was where we, the name of the big city in this area was Fukuoka. Mm-hmm. And it was also the capital of Kyushu, if my memory serves me. And so we took a train. It was a GI train. And we didn't share with the civilians. It went around here and to the peninsula where we were stationed, where we trained. And out on this end of the peninsula was a secret radar installation that we couldn't go near. And of course, it's looking straight at Korea. We weren't supposed to talk about it or anything. But so long ago, I don't think it makes any difference. But did a lot of sightseeing. And this picture here up in the mountains of Beppu, yeah, up in the mountains of Beppu, where we were doing some service on the howitzers after we fired them, had to clean them up and stuff. And that was over here, somewhere down in here. I can't recall the whole thing, but if you went farther this way, you ended up in the Philippines, which we never did. We stayed here. And we trained for a year, and we're supposed to be keeping the peace, but there wasn't any peace to keep. Everybody was friendly, and there were no problems, no animosity, and except once in a while somebody do something, like get too drunk.
You mean when they were in R&R in town or something?
Yeah. So I never got involved in that. I didn't care for that. I smoked. That was bad enough. But we spent the entire enlistment in Japan right in that area, in this area. And then when we came home, we got on a train and went back up full length through Hiroshima. Got to see Hiroshima firsthand.
What was that like?
Well, it was kind of messed up, and it was very flat and destroyed. But the thing I remember the most was that the train station was rebuilt. This is about a year after the bomb was detonated. And the train station was rebuilt. The tracks were back, or we wouldn't be on the train. The tracks were all back and rebuilt. And I got a picture somewhere of Hiroshima, I think. It was simply the sign that said Hiroshima to prove I was actually there.
Did you see any Japanese people?
You mean that were...
When you were on the train?
Oh, yeah, because it stopped. Quite a bit it stopped. And for some reason, to keep schedule. But their trains were smaller than ours and pretty fast. And but I'm sure it stopped in Hiroshima just as a matter of schedule. We couldn't get off and go into town or anything. We just looked out the windows, and the local people looked back at us. And they were curious about the GIs. But anyway, nothing happened. Again, there was no, well, once in a while somebody throws something at the train.
Like what?
Fresh fruit. You know, something dumb. And it would come through the window if the window was open. So we were instructed, we travel with the, excuse me, with the windows closed and the shutters, if the window had a shutter, to close them. And you could hear stuff hitting the side of the train, which is no big deal. It wasn't a rock or a bomb. It was fruit, and probably rotten vegetables. Let's see, where are we now?
So for relaxation, what did you do?
Well,
You told me you'd go into town?
yeah, there was a Red Cross was available for whatever you needed, and you could eat there. There was another GI-operated kitchen in downtown Fukuoka. So if you were on a day leave or something, you could go in there, sign the book, and have lunch. All government run, which was pretty nice. Food was great.
Did you ever meet any other soldiers from any other areas of,
Yeah, you mean just,
from like different areas of Japan or
yeah, they had,
Korea or anything?
there was a lot of GIs there. There was an Air Force airport nearby that I never got on the base there, but it was there. And besides the 11th Field Artillery that I was in, there was the 52nd and the, can't remember all the numbers, but it was all 24th Division artillery people. And we saw some of the other parts of the 24th on maneuvers where we'd go up in the mountains and shoot at things, just targets. It was kind of fun, actually.
So what were your responsibilities and what was your rank when you were?
Okay, I ended up being a technician 5th grade, a T5 we were called. And let me show you. We were up here in the mountains of Beppu. These pictures are dying of old age.
Oh, you can. I'd like to see them.
Okay, here's one on the business end of the howitzer, 155 howitzer.
Oh, tell me about this.
Well, if you, that dot in the middle is the barrel looking out. And this fella here was, I'm not sure what he did. My job was to set the timer on fuses on the shells. And there's a good shot here. I was also the bazooka man in our group. We all trained in all the different, phases of it and different equipment and everything. This is just another picture of all of us guys cleaning the equipment after it. After you shoot it a few times, you have to clean it.
Tell me about cleaning it.
Well, let's see. There's big long poles you screw together. And we used, I'm not sure what we used, but you wiped out the one end, the business end of the howitzer and cleaned it. And then pushed, with these sticks pushed together, you could push something in the breech close the breech. You didn't shoot this thing. You pushed it out the end, come out the barrel, and took it off and did it again till everything come out clean. And a lot of spit and polish. There's one picture. Oh, here. And that's me balancing two 155 millimeter rounds.
Were they heavy?
I think they were $100, $100, 100 pounds each, something like that. And that shell fit in a tray. Two guys picked it up and carried it to the piece, and then two more guys with the big long sticks pushed it in. That was quite an art to get that down, because it would affect the range if you push too hard when you put the thing in, the round, or if you didn't put it in far enough, that would affect the other end where it hit, either hit or miss. It was kind of interesting, and they weren't noisy, just a dull thud when you shot them. At least to me, it wasn't noisy.
Did you wear headphones or anything?
No.
Checked your ears?
See,
What about those over there?
this one.
This one.
Oh, okay, here they are lined up for service after a day of shooting up the mountains. Just a target that somebody picked. It wasn't a hostile target or anything. It could have been an old barn or a tree. And then you'd hear the communication for the next round. It got pretty accurate, because you're with the same group, and you practice with the same people all the time.
How many people?
I think there was 6, and 4 pieces in the group. But anyway,
What about this one?
this one.
This one here.
Okay, there we are, just posing with the projectile. That picture didn't come out too good.
I can see it.
But that's me there.
On the right?
Yeah, and then I can't make that out, or I can tell you the guy's name.
Did you have any special friendships that developed over the course of being there?
Yeah, a few. One time we had a reunion in downtown Los Angeles, and we all remembered each other, and got together. And this fella here, we buddied up. He's from Los Angeles, but after our enlistment was up, never saw each other again. And that was, his name was Kurt.
He was artillery as well?
Yeah. Mm. Let's see.
This on the right.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a picture. It's right down the barrel from the breech end. And okay.
On the right.
This one? Okay. This is just 3 of the guys in our particular section loading ammunition.
It looks like it was hot. You weren't wearing shirts.
Well, after the hard work we had to do was making us sweat.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of warm. But those things that look like a tank didn't have a gun mount or anything on them. They're the vehicle that towed the howitzer. These things were get everything together, and it was heavy. Everything on that thing was heavy. That's just the end of the day. We're cleaning things up. And at the same time, it's training us, on this end of the maneuver, the guys that were directing the fire were also getting practice. And I remember one time I have a thing about spiders. It's a good time to tell that. Well, we were standing guard at night. It was standard procedure. And something, I don't know what it was, told me to turn around and check the area I was standing in. And here's this horrible looking thing. I've never seen a spider that big in my life. And there it was. So I didn't kill it or anything. I moved. But my daughter can verify that I don't like spiders. But the bigger, the worse it gets. And they have some weird bugs over there that live in water. And I'm sure we don't have any like that. But they have big pinchers on them. And they live in puddles of water. Horrible looking things. Okay, this one here? Okay, this is a little more interesting. That's me, but I'm exhaling a cigarette, and I didn't realize I was smoking. It was in an arcade in Ocean Park, California.
So this is when you were in training?
No, this is on the way out. And we were still in service, but we had come back from overseas. This fellow here, my buddy, lifelong buddy, just died. And he got some weird thing called scoliosis, and it killed him, whatever scoliosis is. This fellow here, I don't know what became of him. And then this guy, he had a neat nickname. We called him Happy Dan. And his dad owned a grocery store, and he had a car full of goodies. It was, during the war, all that rationing and stuff like that. And he was always a pleasant guy. His name was Dan, so we called him Happy Dan. And if we stayed on his good side, we got some of the stuff that you couldn't even buy rationing during but then everything came to an end shortly after that. I couldn't tell you the time, but it was towards the end of the war.
So after your enlistment came to an end, what happened? Because you signed up for, 18 months?
Well, the offer was either 18 or 16 at that time, months. And if you served in that particular time, you got to be a vet. And
so there were good benefits for that.
yeah, well, that's helped me get here. If I didn't have that, or all the guys in that time slot didn't have that, we wouldn't be here. We'd still be working somewhere. And I had a good job, had a tremendous job for Hughes Aircraft that I worked my way into.
And was after you left the Army?
Yeah. And but there was some time in between getting discharged and getting into my training for what I retired from, 32 years. I went to a special training school that was offered by Hughes Aircraft to do a particular thing, have a whole bunch of secret stuff, and a background check and all that. And what the secret stuff turned out to be was smart bombs. That's the nickname of them today. And if they shoot one of the smart bombs at you, you're all through. That's not a pleasant way to put it.
So after the 18 months, you returned to Los Angeles?
I moved in with my dad. he didn't know it until I showed up.
Tell me about that.
Well, he lived in Eagle Rock, and he was in it. His job was in the streetcars in Los Angeles as a motorman. And I arrived and asked him if I could stay. And he was a pretty neat guy. And so I lived there for, I don't know how long. Got a local job, kind of a survival job. And then I got hooked up with Westinghouse, built a place in Newbury Park. They were developing some military stuff. And then when that something happened and I changed from Westinghouse to Rockwell International, at a Thousand Oaks facility with this kind of work, and they were doing, excuse me, research. And so I got in there. They put me through another school, which became an occupation that I retired from 30 years later. And, excuse me.
So you moved out to this area and you married and had children?
Well, see, that's a big open space there. I stayed single by choice, and trying to think of the year, because I got out in '48. This was the early '50s.
There's a nice picture of you with a motorcycle there.
Yeah,
Motorcycle.
a group of us.
Tell me about that.
Okay, that's an English BSA, British Small Arms motorcycle. And it just happened to be in front of the shop where a bunch of us worked, and we all had motors. And that was I don't know how old I was there. I weighed a little bit more. But that's Culver City in the early 50s, Slauson and Sepulveda.
Is that the one you built in your apartment? Is that the one you built in your apartment?
No, that was another one. I bought a Triumph Twin motorcycle, moved everything into my apartment in Culver City, and I ended up not with that one, but I did 10 years worth of racing and lived to tell about it. And I quit that after a while. I forget what year. Just kept working. And all during the 50s, I lived in Culver City. And I just took it easy. Didn't get in any trouble. I didn't mind working because I needed a couple of bucks to support my habit of racing motorcycles. So, but anyway, it was a good time.
Tell me about your children.
Okay. Let me get the year right. I was 61, I believe. I met my ex-wife. And everything was okay for a while. It never was not okay. One of those things. So as time went on, we adopted 2 kids, a boy and Stacy, a girl, and from Ventura County. That was interesting. When you adopt someone from the county's the legal guardian. So what we did, the background check and everything, and got on a waiting list. And pretty soon we had two little ones. We had bought a tract home in Camarillo, lived there a long time. And the kids grew up there, graduated from Camarillo High. And my son lives in Las Vegas.
Is that a picture of him?
Yeah, now this is a picture of my son. He's now 40 something.
45.
45, yeah. Excuse me.
You don't have a picture of Stacy.
Not with me. I'm sorry, Stace.
All right. I have the advantage, I'm here.
Yeah, she's my keeper, my bookkeeper, banker,
Bodyguard.
bodyguard. If I'm straying off the straight and narrow, I get, you know. So, but we get along fine. And she, you know, she just makes sure everything goes well. But to make a long story short, the mama, who now lives in Washington, we didn't get along, and for a number of reasons. And so I got custody of both my kids, got a place in Camarillo, and it went from there. How old are you, Stacy?
42 in July.
Yeah, and I'm 82. Don't pass that around.
Tell me about this picture.
This one? Okay. After I retired from, that's not an Army uniform. I retired from Hughes in Santa Barbara and joined the Ventura County Sheriff's. What was our title?
Volunteer
Volunteer
policeman?
police.
Yeah, well, we didn't have guns. We were volunteer, non-sworn. No guns, no weapons, no police power. You just did what you're told. I did that for 15 years. And that's the uniform we had. And the strange thing about that uniform is it looks like a policeman's unless you look twice. And teenagers, for some reason, don't like law enforcement or anything that looks like a sheriff or a cop. They're horrible people. I mean, they just don't like you till they need your service. And we did a lot of traffic, lots of traffic and things like that relieved the deputies from that work. Although if you were in the field doing something and a deputy gives you an order, that's an order from the deputy himself. You got to follow it. You can't just walk away. And I worked on President Reagan's funeral. That was kind of a highlight of the whole thing.
Tell me about it.
Well, when they got things ready to go and got the route all fixed to bring Nancy Reagan to the library, they needed a lot of traffic control and a lot of control of little kids playing and running around and getting in the way of, had to keep it clear for the funeral procession. And that worked out good. I didn't meet Nancy Reagan, but I stood kind of next to her, got a good look at her. And
How'd she look?
just like she looks in the movies. A little older maybe. But she had real waves, smiles, neat person. I like Ronald Reagan no matter what his political thing was. To me, he was a good guy. And it's an interesting thing. I go up there occasionally if I need.
Presidential library?
Yeah, if I need a quiet time, I go up there and go in or someplace in the area and sit and relax. And just, it's a nice quiet time for me and it works. I do it frequently. And if you go up there, it's quite an experience. And there's an area there where they have goodies kind of under guard, and they keep changing them. And since they put the Air Force One airplane in there, that's a really nice side trip. I recommend. And you go, you can have your picture taken in the airplane if you want. And Boeing donated their time and effort to put the plane. It's a monstrous thing, Air Force One. And they built a big cement room. The airplane, Boeing did it for free. It took the plane up there, took it apart wherever it was at, and brought it there and reassembled it in this new room. It's brand new. It's shiny, clean. And anyway, I recommend it if you got nothing better to do. Go out and take a look. So, let's see, what did I do now? Oh, I kept working for all this time, I'm working for the sheriff as a volunteer. That's the key word, volunteer. You don't get paid, no guns, no police power. But people respect you, except teenagers that don't like uniforms. I'm sure the teenagers will love to hear that. But they're very rude, some of those kids. That's another story.
So how do you think your experience in the military kind of influenced you in your choices in terms of the jobs that you did as a man, and then your choice of volunteering?
I personally respect, authority and the adults and things like that, and I just stuck with it. And also, it's busy time for me to have something to do, and that all came out of being in the service. It was, I call it being regimented. Some of it's okay, some of it's not. But, and to respect other people, because that goes around, comes around. And that worked out good. And then when we got the two kids, not at the same time, there's a 2 years difference. Yeah. First our son, where'd he go? There he is, yeah. Okay, I'm not sure of his age there, but that's Seattle in the background. And you take the ferry from one point to another for a nominal fee. And that's the ferry called a Kitsap. It's the name, each boat has its, in the background, Seattle.
Can you tell me about this hat?
Yeah, that hat is from my son. He sent me a mail order, the hat, and what else was it?
Blanket.
Yeah, blanket. It said USArmy. Real nice fleece blanket. I have it on my bed here. And this hat, I guess it's one size fits all. That's just standard veteran. And it fits good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Did you get any medals while you were at the service?
Well, when we got out, we got 2 medals. The shooting was over. And let's see, one was the World War II Victory Medal. The other was Good Conduct Medal. He automatically got that. And I don't have them with me today. I have them in a safe place. Stacy's house. So,
Can you tell me about the buttons and what's on your hat in this picture?
yeah, it's pretty hard to. That button in the hat had a logo of our unit on it. The 24th Division Artillery logo was on time. That was,
your motto?
yeah, but it doesn't tell you on time for what. Anyhow, that's this one here, and this one and that one relate to artillery, and it's crossed cannons, and so that I had just turned 18 there. It wasn't my birthday, but the one of my buddy and I sitting next to the bay. It's lost in the.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was my 18th birthday.
Where were you?
Hakata, Camp Hakata.
So that was actually at the camp.
Yeah, in Japan. And so he was a neat guy. You meet some nice people. And let's see, what's a good... I can't remember right now. I have short-term problems,
You're doing fine.
you know, and but had some pleasant times there. And coming home, or going over there, we went over on a Liberty ship. The nickname was Kaiser coffins. They were all welded seagoing ships. And you got on, I don't know how many of us were on this one, but we got in a storm. I'd never been out to sea before. And we got in this storm. It was really a storm. I never figured we'd make it. But they were small, and the waves were higher than the ship was. And so that was an interesting trip. And we were all hanging on for dear life. This storm lasted a couple of days, and we found out later on they had gone up by Alaska and the Aleutian Islands looking for a shortcut or something. You know, never know when this big storm hit us. And then coming back was a completely different class of boat. And a nice, you know, like first class trip. And the food was good. And we came back, took 14 days to get there and 12 to get back. And somewhere I have a picture of that ship. And I cut it out of the newspaper and saved it because it was called the Marine Panther. Marine Panther.
That was on the way back?
Yeah. No, that was going. That was the one where the storm hit us.
The
Boy.
Kaiser coffin? The Kaiser coffin?
Yeah. The Kaiser's gone. He made cars and all kinds of stuff. And so anyway, I didn't put the nickname like that.
Where'd it come from?
Somebody called it because they were known to be swamped. And they sank with all hands. That's how they got that nickname. And but anyway, that's a whole different story. There was I believe there was around 600 of us on that thing. Never been to sea. And but anyhow, when we got, here's a funny story, a sideline. We got to Yokohama and stayed out in the harbor until dawn. And then they brought the ship in and tied it up to the dock. And that morning for breakfast, one of the things for breakfast was apples. Well, that was a mistake. We're all standing outside watching them, bring the ship into the dock, and some idiot threw an apple at the Japanese guys on the deck, on the dock, and they still had their Japanese soldiers' uniform because they didn't have any clothes, so they had to wear their uniform. So this guy throws an apple at this, person. Kind of funny because it looked like Jack caught on that quick, and I ate my apple because I was hungry, and the guys were throwing the apples at the guys on the deck, and they were trying to scoop them up and save them. It was kind of cruel, I think. It looked at these hundreds of apples flying off the ship. Because everybody, we're all in the same boat, pardon the expression, and they're throwing this apple. And then they're throwing cigarettes. Because all kinds of crazy stuff.
Why would they throw cigarettes?
I don't know. I smoked the ones I had. But it was a goofy thing. I'll never forget. It looked like, I don't know what it looked like, these hundreds of apples. And I'm sure they didn't like it either, except some of them probably saved the apples, for later. And,
But the ship got in and docked
Yeah.
safely.
yeah, and then they took us to the 4th Rebel Depot where they organized everybody and put you on the train after they figure out where you're going to go. And the train I was put on went to the 24th Division on Kyushu. And that was kind of an interesting trip. I couldn't pronounce it. Each train station had its name. And the train station near Kampakata, when I say near, it was within a city block. And let's see, where was I? I forgot what I was going to say.
You're talking about the train stopping and different
Yeah, it
stations.
just stopped. Most places were friendly, some weren't. The civilians knew the train was coming. Oh, one thing in particular, when it stopped and pulled up to the station in Hiroshima, the people there didn't like us. There was no doubt about it. Yelling all kinds of Japanese sayings at us. And so what? Sticks and stones will break my bones, That was my attitude. And I would no more smack some old lady with an apple than anybody else. And the little old ladies would come up to the window of the train. We couldn't understand them, but they were cursing us. And they were mad. Their house was gone. Their city was gone. It was flat like this table. So, and then one of the fellows here is from Japan, and I think some of his family are from Hiroshima. I'll ask him. He's a really neat guy. And
He's a veteran as well.
yeah, and he got in. I don't know how he ended up as a Japanese citizen in the USArmy. I'll ask him one of these days. He's a pretty upfront guy. And most of the time here, I mind my own business. Safer. Yeah. And then Stacy lives right down the street here. She makes sure everything's going good. And I appreciate that, I'll tell you. So, any other picture you'd like to?
Well, I think we went through them. Do you have anything else you'd like to add about your military experience and Japan, your family? It's up to you.
No, that would really be, I'll be hard put to remember all that stuff.